This story is called Little Yip Yip and His Bark by Catherine and Byron Jackson, illustrated by Tibor Gergely. One morning a very small puppy woke up in a brand new doghouse. He sniffed at the cozy dark inside, and he looked at the bright blue outside. Then he blinked his eyes and looked all around the big busy barnyard. "This is a wonderful place," he said to himself, "but oh my, isn't it big." Just as he said that, all the big barnyard animals came running up to him. "Are you the new watchdog?" asked the ducks. The little puppy liked the watching idea. He smiled and wagged his tail. "I guess I am," he said. "Well then," crowed the big rooster, "let's hear your big watchdog bark." And the puppy stood up tall and opened his mouth. He took a deep breath, and then he barked, "Yip, yip, yip." The rooster turned to the pigs. "Did you hear anything?" he asked. "We heard something," squealed the pigs. "It sounded like a squeaky shoe." And the calf said she thought it sounded like a baby robin calling its mother. All the animals laughed and ran away very busily, and the puppy went into his new house. "Maybe my barking isn't all it should be," he said, and he ran out into the sunshine to practice. But before he had time for one yip, a great big black dog came bounding up. The big dog tasted the puppy's milk, and he nibbled the puppy's biscuit. "Puppy food," he snorted. "I'll come back when you have some real food for me to eat up." And as he walked away with his head held high, the little puppy felt so cross that he barked until the big dog was out of sight. "Yip, yip, yip, yip," he barked. A little field mouse on its way to the corn crib heard that little bark. It jumped when it heard the first yip, but when it heard the second and third, it sat down and laughed until tears dropped off his whiskers. "Ho, ho, ho, ho," laughed the mouse. "I have baby mice at home who can bark louder than that." "Is that so?" cried the puppy. He ran at the mouse with all his sharp teeth showing. "I'll bite!" But the mouse was gone. It had disappeared through the cracks in the corn crib, and the puppy was chasing nobody at all. "Well," he barked proudly, "I guess I scared him all right." And then he heard all the mice at the corn crib barking little tiny barks. "Yip, yip, yip," they laughed. "Yip, yip, oh, what a watchdog." He looked for something bigger to scare, and just as it was getting dark, he saw something much bigger. A slim, sly, red fox came creeping into the barnyard. He slithered straight towards the hen house, and he looked so mean and hungry that the little puppy backed away from him. "I have to bark louder than ever this time," he whispered bravely, and he backed right into an empty milk pail. "You have to bark very loud to scare a fox." The sly fox crept nearer and nearer and nearer to the hen house, licking his chops and snickering to himself. Then all at once the puppy took a deep breath and barked. When that little bark came out of the milk pail, it wasn't a little yip, yip, yip at all. It echoed and rumbled around in the pail, and when it came out, it was a fine big bark. It went bow, wow, wow. And it was so loud that the puppy jumped into the pail and all. "Help!" squealed the fox. He turned head over heels and ran away as fast as he could. The puppy picked himself up and barked like a little yip. He ran back into the pail and barked a big bow wow. "Now I know how to scare the wits out of anything," he cried. "All I have to do is hide inside something before I bark." And he trotted back to his brand new house with his little tail wagging so fast that it looked like a pinwheel. Early the next morning, a family of very hungry rabbits hopped into the farm garden. They chewed tunnels in the biggest cabbages and hopped through the tunnels. They bit big holes in the medium-sized cabbages and little holes in the tiny little cabbages. "Rabbits in the cabbage patch," the rooster crowed, "spoiling the whole cabbage patch." Well, the little puppy woke up with a start. He ran across the barnyard and into the garden, barking his little puppy, "Yip, yip, yip." And the rabbits stopped eating just long enough to swallow what they had in their mouths. Then they jumped up and down on a row of young cabbages, laughing at that sleepy little bark. "Oh, bad," yipped the little puppy. He started toward his milk pail, Then he said, "Oh, good," and he scampered into an empty barrel that was lying at the edge of the cabbage patch. "Now for my best rabbit-scaring bark," thought the little puppy. He closed his eyes and puffed out his chest and barked as loudly as he could. But the big echoey barrel rolled the sound out big and loud into the garden. Bow wow, wow 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 wow. It came out such a big bow wow wow that the rabbit's ears stood on end. "Watchdogs!" they cried, "at least 4 great big ones." They hopped lickety-split out of the cabbage patch and over the fence. And in 1 second there wasn't a rabbit to be seen. "This was even better than the milk pail," laughed the little puppy. Then he thought he might find something still louder, and he nosed all around the farm, barking in every empty thing he could find. He barked in a rusty milk can, he barked in a big round pipe, and then one day he found an old oil drum, and he ran in that and barked, "Where's that big black dog now?" And his bark sounded like this: bow wow, wow 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 wow. The puppy liked the old drum bark. He practiced it every day, and every day his own little bark grew bigger and bigger, but he never noticed that. The farmer didn't like all the noise. "You're a fine watchdog, little puppy, but you'll have to use your own bark after tomorrow because I'm going to clean up the farm." No. Then the next day when the farmer worked, the puppy ran at his heels. "Oh, don't take my barrel," he barked. And he barked, "Don't take my old drum." And then he barked, "Don't take my milk can or that old pipe. I need those old pails." But into the junk wagon they went, and all my barking things are gone, cried the little puppy. "Now what will I do when that big black dog comes back?" And at that very minute he said that, along came the big black dog. And he walked boldly in through the puppy's barnyard. He walked right up to the little puppy's house. He licked up all the puppy's milk, and then he picked up the puppy's new chewing bone. That was too much for the little puppy, so he ran at the big black dog like a small thunderbolt. He was so angry that he barked for all he was worth, and by this time his own bark was real big. Bow wow wow. It was even bigger than his old drum bark. The big dog never stopped to see how big the little puppy was. He just dropped that bone and ran, with the puppy snapping at his tail. He jumped over the fence and he raced down the road, and he never came back. Everybody on the farm came running out to see the chase. "Look at our watchdog," squealed the pigs, "and just listen to his bark," the rooster crowed. The farmer's wife was so pleased that she ran into the house for an old soft pillow, and she put it in the doghouse. "It will make a nice bed for our watchdog," she said. And the farmer filled the puppy's bowl with cream, and he brought out a little dish of gravy with some fine juicy scraps of meat in it. He put a new chewing bone full of tidbits beside the old chewing bone, and then he whistled a long, loud whistle for the little puppy. When the little puppy got back to his house, he was the most surprised puppy in the whole wide world. First he barked a good-sized bark to say thank you, and then he began to eat. He ate until his little sides were as round as a pumpkin. He tried out his lovely new bed. It was so soft and comfortable that he almost fell asleep, but he had one more thing to do. The little puppy stood up on his 4 little feet and wagged his tail, and just as he was sure he was really a real watchdog, at last he barked the loudest kind of bark. Bow, wow, wow. The end.